Something that's not coming out of Washington, not from London, not even from Paris, but from Pakistan. Yes, Pakistan, a nation that has quietly developed a fighter jet, now being whispered about in Pentagon hallways and British defense briefings. The JF-17 Block Roman 3, a name that may not sound as flashy as the F-35 or Eurofighter Typhoon yet. It's the aircraft that's forcing military analysts to rethink decades of Western airpower assumptions. Now here's the hook. This isn't just about another fighter jet. This is about a statement of technological self-reliance, strategic innovation, and a direct challenge to the monopoly of Western aerospace giants. The JF-17 Block Roman 3 has arrived as a symbol of how a nation, once dependent on imported military technology, has built something that blends affordability with cutting-edge capability, a combination that's making defense planners in Washington and London distinctly uncomfortable. What makes it so significant? It's not just its radar, avionics, or beyond visual range missiles, though those are impressive. It's the philosophy behind it. Pakistan, working in close collaboration with China, has built a platform that can hold its own against aircraft many times its price. The ESA radar, advanced electronic warfare suite, helmet, mounted display, and stealth-inspired design are all features normally reserved for top-tier Western jets. Yet Pakistan has put all of this together at a fraction of the cost. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is exactly why it's unsettling so many in the West. Because the JF-17 Block Roman 3 is rewriting the rulebook on what modern airpower means in the 21st century. You see, for decades, Western defense industries thrived on the idea that only billion-dollar jets could dominate the skies, aircraft so expensive that only a handful of nations could afford them. But here comes Pakistan, a country under constant geopolitical pressure, quietly producing a jet that delivers 80% of the performance of a Western fighter for less than 1/3 of the price. That's not just innovation, that's disruption. And in the world of defense, disruption is the one thing the establishment fears most. What's even more fascinating is the growing curiosity in Western think tanks and military circles. British analysts are now discussing the JF-17's rapid evolution from a modest light fighter to a true multi-role combat platform. In Washington, defense journals are openly comparing its operational value to jets that cost 5 times more. And behind closed doors, policymakers are beginning to ask an uncomfortable question. If Pakistan can do this, who's next? The JF-17 Block Roman 3 represents a shift in power from the monopolized West to the emerging South, and that's a narrative few in the West are eager to confront. Make no mistake, this jet is more than an aircraft. It's a symbol of a changing global order. It tells us that technology and power are no longer the exclusive domains of Western capitals. It shows that innovation can come from places long underestimated or ignored. And for Pakistan, it's not just about defense. It's about dignity, independence, and the assertion that their skies will no longer be guarded by borrowed wings. So when we hear that the British and Americans are now discussing the JF-17 Block Roman 3 in serious tones, we shouldn't be surprised. Because the age of Western air dominance is being quietly, methodically challenged not through arrogance but through ingenuity. Pakistan has built something that's not just flying high in the skies, but soaring in the global conversation about what power truly means. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the story of the fighter jet that's making London and Washington think twice. The JF-17 Block Roman 3 isn't just a machine, it's a message. A message that the future of airpower might not be decided in billion-dollar boardrooms, but in the determined workshops of nations that refuse to be left behind. That's the new reality, and it's time the world paid attention. Pakistan's JF-17 Block Roman 3 has emerged as an unexpected yet undeniable disruption in the strategic calculus of Western defense circles. In recent months, discussions in London and Washington have shifted from quiet curiosity to serious assessment. What began as an aircraft largely ignored by Western analysts has now become the focal point of debates within military think tanks and policy briefings. The JF-17's evolution from a modest, cost-effective fighter to a technologically sophisticated, fully networked combat platform has forced the West to confront a new reality, one where advanced capability no longer depends on Western manufacturing or financial might. It is not the jet's size, speed, or cost that is shaking the system. It is what it represents, a break from the dominance of Western defense standards that have long dictated the global order of air power. For decades, Western air doctrines have rested on the assumption that cutting-edge technology comes with enormous expense and exclusivity. The F-35, the Eurofighter Typhoon, and the F-22 Raptor were symbols of this model, technologically superior but prohibitively expensive. In contrast, the JF-17 Block Roman 3's arrival has exposed a vulnerability in this mindset. It has shown that a capable and modern fighter can be developed outside this traditional ecosystem, utilizing efficient collaboration, indigenous engineering, and pragmatic design. Western analysts are now grappling with an uncomfortable truth, that the monopoly once enjoyed by a few defense giants is being quietly challenged by nations once deemed peripheral to the high-tech arms race. The JF-17 Block Roman 3 has effectively redefined what strategic relevance looks like in the age of multipolar defense innovation. The reaction within British and American defense institutions has been particularly telling. In the United Kingdom, military analysts and retired air marshals have begun openly acknowledging that Pakistan's success with the JF-17 program cannot be dismissed as a regional development. In the United States, publications that once gave little attention to Pakistani defense projects are now covering the aircraft's radar capabilities, data link integration, and weapon systems with growing interest. Behind closed doors, defense planners are studying the program's cost structure and export model to understand how a developing nation managed to achieve such a balance between affordability and sophistication. The realization is beginning to settle in that this aircraft represents not just technological progress, but a shift in the geopolitical narrative, one that challenges the West's control over the narrative of military modernization. The JF-17 Block Roman 3 has also triggered conversations about strategic accessibility. Smaller nations that could never afford Western jets are now considering partnerships with Pakistan and China to acquire comparable air power. This potential realignment of defense relationships is causing unease in Western capitals, particularly as the aircraft's export success continues to grow. For British and American policymakers, the implications extend far beyond technology. They reach into diplomacy, market influence, and regional balance of power. A single jet, developed through pragmatic cooperation and efficient design philosophy, has begun reshaping the conversation about who defines the next generation of global air power. It is no longer a matter of whether the JF-17 Block Roman 3 can compete in combat scenarios. It already has proven itself capable. The real question now being asked in London and Washington is what this means for the Western defense industry's long-term strategic posture. The aircraft's rise signals that innovation has become decentralized, and capability is no longer confined to superpower economies. For the first time in decades, Western defense circles are being forced to reassess their assumptions about where the next leap in military aviation will come from. The answer as the JF-17 Block Roman 3 demonstrates, may not emerge from the world's most expensive laboratories, but from nations determined to claim their own seat at the table of global power. The JF-17 Block Roman 3 has become the defining example of cost-effective disruption in modern defense strategy, a phenomenon that few in the West anticipated but can no longer ignore. Traditionally, the defense industry has equated capability with cost, suggesting that only nations with billion-dollar budgets could field true fourth- or fifth-generation fighters. Yet Pakistan's approach has challenged that paradigm. The JF-17 Block Roman 3, developed through a combination of indigenous effort and strategic collaboration with China, delivers a remarkable balance between price, performance, and purpose. Its affordability is not a compromise. It is the foundation of its success. This aircraft has proven that high performance can coexist with economic pragmatism, a concept that stands in stark contrast to Western defense economics, where technological advancement often comes with unsustainable financial weight. For years, Western nations have operated under the assumption that defense power is measured by expenditure. The F-35 program alone has cost the United States over $1 trillion, and the Eurofighter Typhoon remains one of Europe's most expensive defense projects. In contrast, Pakistan's JF-17 Block Roman 3 costs only a fraction of these platforms, yet manages to integrate features like an active electronically scanned array, ESA radar, advanced electronic warfare systems, beyond visual range missile capability, and a modern glass cockpit. These are not superficial upgrades, they are core elements of next-generation warfare. The fact that Pakistan has achieved all this at such a reduced cost has sent ripples through Western policy circles, forcing a re-evaluation of how modern air power should be defined and how much it should truly cost to defend the skies. This cost-performance equation has become the jet's most strategic weapon. It has opened the door for nations long excluded from elite defense technology markets. Countries in Africa, the Middle East, and Southeast Asia now see a pathway toward advanced air defense without indebting their economies. The JF-17 Block Roman 3 has become a symbol of accessible sovereignty, allowing developing nations to acquire credible air deterrence while maintaining financial independence. For Western defense manufacturers, this represents a growing threat. Their business model, built on exclusivity and financial leverage, is being quietly undermined by a jet that proves capability need not come at such an extravagant cost. The fear is not merely losing contracts but losing influence as nations start shifting away from Western suppliers in favor of more attainable alternatives. In defense policy discussions across London and Washington, the implications of this shift are increasingly being debated. Analysts point out that Pakistan's approach could spark a global realignment of defense procurement, one that favors practical performance over prestige. The Block Roman 3's price advantage does not only reduce costs for buyers, it also allows for scalability, fleet expansion, and ease of maintenance, factors often overlooked in Western defense planning, where complexity and long-term dependency are built into the model. By contrast, the JF-17 program emphasizes autonomy, adaptability, and cost discipline, a combination that resonates strongly in an era when defense budgets are tightening worldwide. Beyond its financial appeal, the JF-17 Block Roman 3 also demonstrates the strategic importance of independence in design and production. Pakistan has learned to manage its defense ecosystem without the constraints of Western political conditions or export restrictions. That independence adds intangible value to the aircraft, making it not just a product but a political instrument. one that allows countries to make defense decisions free of Western oversight. It is this mixture of affordability and autonomy that has turned the JF-17 Block Roman 3 into a case study of 21st century defense innovation. Western defense analysts, accustomed to associating low cost with low capability, are being forced to confront the uncomfortable truth that efficiency can outperform extravagance. In this light, the JF-17 Block Roman 3 is not merely an aircraft. It is a challenge to an entire economic order that has long defined how military power is built, priced, and projected. The JF-17 Block Roman 3 represents far more than an impressive technological achievement. It embodies a shift in Pakistan's defense philosophy toward genuine autonomy and strategic identity. For decades, Pakistan's airpower relied heavily on imported technology, constrained by political dependencies and export restrictions from Western nations. Every purchase came with conditions, every upgrade required permission, and every negotiation reminded the country of its vulnerability in the global defense hierarchy. The emergence of the JF-17 program, and particularly its latest Block Roman 3 variant, has altered that narrative entirely. It has allowed Pakistan to move from being a buyer of airpower to being a creator of it. This transition is not just technical. It is profoundly political, reshaping how Pakistan defines itself in the realm of defense and diplomacy. The significance of technological independence in the modern geopolitical environment cannot be overstated. Nations that produce their own defense assets control not only their security but also their foreign policy. For Pakistan, this autonomy has been hard-earned. The JF-17 Block Roman 3, with its indigenous integration of avionics, software, and weapon systems, marks a milestone in this journey. It shows that the country is no longer content to operate within the limits imposed by traditional suppliers. The decision to pursue co-development with China was a calculated strategic move, one that provided Pakistan access to modern technology without the political constraints attached to Western defense partnerships. The result is a fighter jet that carries not only the performance of modern air combat systems, but also the pride of national ownership. Within defense and political circles, the JF-17 Block Roman 3 has become a symbol of how technological empowerment translates directly into diplomatic leverage. By achieving a higher degree of self-reliance, Pakistan has gained room to maneuver in its international relations. The aircraft itself, with its state-of-the-art radar, integrated electronic warfare systems, and long-range missile capabilities, ensures that Pakistan's air force remains modern and credible. But beyond the hardware, it signals to allies and adversaries alike that the country is capable of charting its own strategic course. In an age where defense capability is deeply intertwined with national identity, the JF-17 Block Roman 3 has become a statement of confidence and independence. Western defense analysts are beginning to acknowledge that Pakistan's model represents a new type of defense development, collaborative yet sovereign. The nation has managed to cultivate expertise without succumbing to the typical dependencies that accompany defense cooperation with major powers. In doing so, Pakistan has positioned itself among the few developing countries capable of exporting a fully modern multi-role fighter jet. This achievement carries implications beyond the technical realm. It challenges the long-held perception that advanced defense innovation is exclusive to Western or superpower economies. By proving otherwise, Pakistan has inserted itself into a global conversation about equity and innovation in military technology. Internally, the JF-17 Block Roman 3 has strengthened Pakistan's defense industrial base. encouraging a culture of research, engineering, and systems integration that will benefit future generations. The project has cultivated domestic expertise and inspired confidence within the nation's scientific community, proving that Pakistani engineers and strategists can compete on the global stage. Externally, it has given Pakistan a new kind of diplomatic credibility, one grounded not in alliance dependency but in technological contribution. This is particularly relevant in a world where defense partnerships often dictate geopolitical alignment. The JF-17 Block Roman III allows Pakistan to engage in partnerships on its own terms, strengthening regional influence while maintaining strategic balance. In London and Washington, this newfound independence is being watched with growing interest. The recognition is not just about Pakistan's technical capabilities, but about its ability to redefine the structure of defense power in the developing world. The JF-17 Block Roman III is more than a jet. It is a tool of sovereignty, a declaration that Pakistan no longer operates under the shadow of others' technology. It embodies a political message that resonates well beyond its wingspan, that national strength in the modern era is built not merely on weapons, but on the freedom to design, develop, and define one's own defense destiny. Across Western think tanks and defense research institutions, a quiet but growing fascination surrounds Pakistan's JF-17 Block Roman III program. What was once viewed as a regional project is now being analyzed as a global case study in strategic efficiency and innovation. At the Royal United Services Institute in London, defense analysts have begun comparing the JF-17's development path with Western procurement programs, noting how Pakistan has managed to deliver modern capabilities under strict financial constraints. In Washington, journals such as *Defense News* and *Air Force Magazine* have published in-depth examinations of the aircraft's radar technology, avionics suite, and combat potential. This shift in attention is not driven by curiosity alone. It reflects a deeper recognition that Pakistan's approach to military modernization could influence the future of global defense planning. For years, the Western narrative surrounding Pakistan's defense capabilities remained narrow, often dismissing indigenous programs as limited or derivative. That perception has changed dramatically. The JF-17 Block Roman III's rapid evolution, from a modest light fighter to a fully capable multi-role platform, has forced Western experts to acknowledge that the dynamics of innovation have diversified. The aircraft's integration of an active, electronically scanned array radar, advanced data link systems, and cutting-edge electronic warfare capabilities represents a leap that few expected from a nation working outside the traditional Western defense ecosystem. The pace at which these advancements have been achieved has become a point of discussion in think tanks studying cost-effective defense strategies. The central question now being explored is how Pakistan managed to compress years of technological evolution into such a short development cycle without compromising combat capability. This growing analytical interest extends beyond the technical specifications of the jet. Western defense circles are using the JF-17 Block Roman III as a lens to examine the broader geopolitical and economic implications of low-cost innovation. The aircraft's success challenges the long-held assumption that modern air power can only be sustained through massive defense budgets and complex multinational programs. The JF-17 demonstrates that with strategic vision, partnerships based on mutual benefit, and a focus on operational necessity, a nation can achieve parity in capability without parity in spending. For institutions accustomed to studying Western-centric models of defense procurement, this realization is both intriguing and unsettling. It introduces a new paradigm in which developing nations can compete not by matching Western spending, but by out-maneuvering it through smart design and efficient collaboration. In policy circles across London and Washington, this conversation has begun to take on a strategic tone. The JF-17 Block Roman III is now seen not just as a technological development, but as a symbol of shifting power dynamics within the defense industry. Its affordability and export potential pose direct competition to Western manufacturers who have long dominated global arms markets. Analysts are beginning to discuss what this means for defense diplomacy, how nations that once relied on the West for air power solutions might now turn toward Pakistan and China for viable alternatives. That possibility alone carries far-reaching consequences, not only for defense economics, but for the political leverage that accompanies arms trade relationships. The curiosity has also expanded into academic and military education spaces, where the JF-17 Block Roman III is being studied as a model for sustainable defense development. In institutions such as the U.S. Naval War College and the International Institute for Strategic Studies, discussions now include how Pakistan's cooperative design model with China has created an adaptable framework for future joint ventures among developing nations. The underlying message resonates strongly. Innovation is no longer the monopoly of the rich. It is the domain of the determined. The JF-17 Block Roman III has become a benchmark for what is possible when strategic necessity drives technological creativity. As a result, the tone in Western think tanks has shifted from skepticism to measured respect. The aircraft has become an emblem of pragmatic progress, proof that great power status in defense is no longer dependent on massive economies or global industrial networks. Through the lens of the JF-17 Block Roman III, analysts are beginning to understand that the next era of military aviation will not be shaped solely by who can spend the most, but by who can innovate smartest. Pakistan's example, once underestimated, now stands as a pivotal reference point in the evolving discourse of modern air power strategy. The rise of Pakistan's JF-17 Block Roman III has introduced a profound shift in the global balance of air power, challenging long-standing assumptions that technological superiority and military dominance remain exclusive to Western powers. For decades, the Western defense industry has dictated the standards of modern aviation, where cost, complexity, and exclusivity defined what was considered advanced. Yet Pakistan's latest iteration of the JF-17 has quietly dismantled that notion. By blending advanced features with cost efficiency and strategic adaptability, the JF-17 Block Roman III has proven that cutting-edge air power no longer needs to be the privilege of superpowers. It has reset expectations across the defense world, forcing both analysts and policymakers in London and Washington to reconsider how the hierarchy of air dominance is constructed and sustained in the modern era. The JF-17 Block Roman III's strength lies in its ability to redefine the equation of value in air combat. It combines advanced sensors, modern avionics, stealth-inspired design, and long-range weapon systems elements once seen only in top-tier Western fighters into a platform that remains financially accessible to smaller nations. In doing so, it challenges the core of Western aerospace philosophy, which has long relied on the premise that superior technology must come with equally superior cost. The aircraft's integration of ESA radar, helmet-mounted targeting systems, and beyond visual range missile capability effectively places it in the same tactical conversation as aircraft costing 5 to 6 times more. This parity of capability at a fraction of the cost has disrupted the established structure of the global arms market. Defense analysts are beginning to recognize that the future of air power might not rest solely on expensive platforms, but on intelligent engineering that prioritizes efficiency and adaptability over extravagance. In strategic terms, this evolution represents a democratization of air power. The JF-17 Block Roman III gives emerging nations the ability to project credible deterrence without falling into the financial dependency traps that come with Western procurement. It has opened doors for countries historically sidelined by the economic barriers of defense modernization. For these nations, Pakistan's achievement is not just an inspiration but a model, a demonstration that indigenous development, when combined with pragmatic alliances, can yield world-class results. This redistribution of technological access carries significant implications for Western influence, which for decades has been reinforced through arms sales and maintenance contracts. As the JF-17 gains traction in the export market, that traditional leverage begins to erode, and Western powers are now observing how one aircraft can quietly reshape their long-held strategic and commercial dominance. The West's reaction to this shift is increasingly visible in policy discussions and defense analysis circles. The aircraft's growing credibility is not merely viewed as a regional development, but as an early indicator of a global trend. If Pakistan's model succeeds in balancing performance and cost on this scale, others will follow. This realization is causing a ripple effect through Western defense industries, which now face the challenge of justifying their high-cost systems in an era where nations are demanding affordability without compromise. The conversation is no longer about which fighter is superior in pure technical terms. It is about which nation can sustain its airpower advantage without economic strain. The JF-17 Block Roman III has exposed that imbalance with striking clarity. At its core, the Block Roman III has become more than a fighter jet. It represents a redefinition of strategic credibility. It symbolizes how innovation, when driven by necessity rather than excess, can upend the established order. For London and Washington, this realization carries both challenge and respect. The West is being reminded that technological dominance is not a permanent entitlement. It must be earned continuously through relevance and adaptability. The JF-17 Block Roman III's rise stands as evidence that air power in the 21st century is evolving beyond wealth. It is being shaped by willpower, ingenuity, and strategic focus. And in this new equation, Pakistan has secured a position not just as a participant, but as a force that others must now account for.